All right. Thanks for tuning in. If you are, appreciate you. We are here with the one and only Darin Hale.
I hope there's no other.
They let this guy be city council of Anderson somehow. I'm not quite sure why. No, I'm just joking. Darin's a great guy. Man, this guy's got his stuff together. I served on the mosquito board with him for about a year and a half, I think, or something
That's
like
right.
that. And
That's right. No, that was a really great opportunity. You know, that's kind of where I got my feet wet in the whole sitting on boards, political world. You know, and
I learned a lot being president for. I'm not anymore, but I learned a whole lot because I had to run the meetings and everything. At first, I was like, then after a while, I figured out how to.
There's a stumbling process as you go through. You know, your first time serving on a board, and you're like, what am I supposed to do? And I mean, really, the key is, and it's kind of missed in a lot of our elects and a lot of these board members. It's like you have a job to do, right? You got to read this material, like read it because you're going to vote on it, right? And there's so many of these positions all across the nation. It's just like they get the agenda, don't read it, and they just pass whatever
rubber stamp
bureaucracy wants. Yeah.
Yep. I'm not a rubber stamper,
Yeah,
but I get along with everybody down there very well. Anyways, let's enough about me. We're not here to talk about me or city council at all. We're here. I saw the LA Times did a character assassination of you. They actually talked about me a little bit at the end too.
I saw that.
Yeah, but anyways, whatever. We're not here to talk about me. That's old news. I actually got put onto the board again, but there wasn't a big on the mosquito board. I got re-voted on, appointed, and it wasn't even a whisper about it this time. It just fell under the radar. But anyways, so yeah, I saw this. You know, there's some stuff going on with the flight school. Anyways, I saw. I mean, you must be pissing someone off because you know they don't write character assassinations about someone in the LA Times unless they're touching on something that's probably got some sustenance to it.
Well, yeah. Thanks, John, for having me on the show, and you're a beautiful companion back here. I appreciate you guys and the hard work you do. Just to start off, you know, I want to mention that, like, I'm here at my sole capacity as a civilian, as a community member in the city of Anderson, and that's it. I do serve as a city council member, but my research and findings, my Facebook, all of that stuff is at my own official, you know, my own capacity as a private citizen, and it doesn't reflect anything having to do with the city of Anderson or city council at all. So,
you're here as a human being.
That's it.
With your own critical thinking and not here to represent anybody else but yourself.
That's 100% correct. That's 100% correct. And so it's quite a story. And this, I guess to kind of go back in history a little bit, for me, how this kind of all started is I was actually kind of fascinated in you know, tracking flights and stuff, probably back 2020, 2021, and even reached out to an individual online that hooked me up with some tracking equipment that I can install at my house. And so I'm a member on the ADSB exchange. So and what that is that all over the globe, different people can be a part of this exchange, and it sends out a signal and it captures aircraft, you know, whether it's tail numbers, call signs, their altitude, flight speed, all this stuff. And then it's shared on an open network online. And so I'm a part of that network. So I have that. If you can go on to adsbexchange.com, and I think you can even see some of the location data points of all the people that are on there. So yeah, I was kind of fascinated with all that, and then what led me into this story actually stemmed back back in that time, probably 21, 22. Someone approached me about IASCO flight school, and said something to the effect of, they're training Chinese military. And I'm like, get out of here. Like, no way. I didn't believe it. I'm like, that's fascinating, but like, maybe it's worth looking into, right? So I just quietly, on my own accord, just started tracking them in the air, right, on my equipment. And my equipment can go back in history. You can go back for years and look at flight data. And as long as you have the tail numbers of all of these planes, then you can track everywhere they've been. So I just started following them, and I like watching some of their flight patterns. I'm like, interesting. There's lots of flights over all of our key infrastructures. We got Shasta Dam, Whiskeytown Dam, Keswick Dam. And then I wasn't making the connection at the time, but then there was some flights to Atwater, California. So that there's another, it's a Sierra Academy something. It's another flight school in Atwater, which is actually touched on later in the story. So I just kind of followed along, intermittently, what are they up to? Who's up in the air? I have it on my phone. I can click the app and look and see what's going on. And what I was following at that time really was, it was right around 2022 when these Navy P-8s started doing the touch and goes here. And I was just extremely fascinated with that. I even actually went to the end of the runway outside of the airport there and just filmed them touching and going. I caught a P-3 coming through there. And there was even a flyby by one of the Galaxies. So that's our big Air Force jet. That sucker's massive. Pretty fascinating. Caught the YouTube spy plane coming in and then going straight up in the air. It's just some really cool stuff. It's just fascinating, right? Anyway, so after I was told that, it's just started following along. I'm like, you capture stuff and then you put it in your back pocket. It's like, I don't have any proof or evidence back then of like, is this really true? And I never really dug deep to find out. I really thought it was more or less like a foreign exchange student type of scenario, right? Mm-hmm. So we send students there, they send students here, train vice versa, and that extends into the universities and stuff like that. So it wasn't until recently where this all came back to surface, and I watched an episode where General Michael T. Flynn was talking about the Chinese and having students on U.S. soil. And actually, I have the video up, and we can play that. But to touch on who Gen Flynn is, for those who don't know, he is Trump's national security advisor, and he was the director for the DIA. So the dude's in intelligence. He's very connected. He's been in the military for years. He knows what he's talking about. His brother, General Flynn, is a 3-star general, retired, and his brother is a 4-star general. I don't know if he's retired now. He might be, but he was command of the Pacific Fleet. So I revere these guys. These guys have been in the game for a long time, and they know what they're talking about. Absolutely. So this video, if Leslie, you could pull it up, I'll play it. And this is what started me on this.
Right before you start that, I want to just talk just for a quick second here. So I guess I read that they were saying that these guys are over here to fly because the weather's better and stuff like that, which, I guess you get more flight days and everything, I guess, but to fly
It's valid.
yeah, that's valid. But when you just from an outside perspective, when you look at some of these flight patterns, like there's a wide open area. So when you see strategic grid patterns, because I'm not an expert like you on ADSB Exchange, but I get on there as a hobbyist, and I see planes fly over, and I'm like, who's that, and what they're I look at that kind of stuff, and I actually I've seen some very interesting things. I've seen I can't remember the exact name of it, but I remember one day there was this plane flying this grid pattern, and I looked it up, and it was the same plane that was doing this mapping in Florida, and with the green laser lights.
That's LiDAR.
LiDAR.
Correct.
That's what it is. LiDAR.
Correct.
So It was the exact same company that was doing it right here in Redding. And I have all screenshotted. I got video of the plane. I was like, what is up with this plane? And I looked it up, and you go, and it's like a total, I mean, it flew back and forth and just combing and combing, obviously mapping a bunch of stuff out. Who are they doing it for? It's interesting. So
Correct.
But what I'm trying, my point is like, why would they be doing these grid patterns or flying over critical infrastructure? You think and you look at like Dianne Feinstein's, personal driver over 20 years was a freaking Chinese spy. You look at people like Eric Swalwell, and obviously there's been a lot of Chinese spy stuff. So you think if you have people from any country, why be flying them over critical infrastructure areas when we have massive, I mean, you could be flying like there's everywhere else you could be flying if you're just practicing flying. There's mountains everywhere. The terrain's there's no specific reason that they should be. So that's all the 5 cents I wanted to put in there.
It's a valid point. And on some of those grid patterns that you talked about, I've tracked those planes too. Dynamic Aviation is one of them. They have several planes. They specialize in LiDAR. They were doing it for the state of California. They say was for snowpack and how much water is created, and they'll do a LiDAR when there's no snow, and they'll do a LiDAR when there is snow, and they can, by the LiDAR, they can tell the depth of the snow. So I pursued that very little, but that's interesting. I followed them for a little while. There was another aircraft that I tracked for a long time because they were in the area for about 4 months, from the Oregon border all the way down, and that was Excalibur, also employed by the state. That one's a little more fishy. That's probably another topic another day. I actually talked to the guy running that program, and his story does not align with what the state told me. So that's interesting. But I know that's off topic, but on this topic, other nations flying their own military aircraft over our airspace is not uncommon. I see that daily. I could probably pull something up right now where Canada's over our airspace, Australia comes into our airspace.
China, even I have tracked a few.
Well, because they're a massive producer of our goods, right, that we all buy every day, they have cargo planes that come in like every hour, constantly coming in, right? And you can track them coming over the Pacific, 747s. So I see them all the time. It's not, to me, the stuff that's like in your face out there that, you can pull it up and go, yeah, it's another country. That's like, okay, that's happening. I have no control over that. But it doesn't really alarm me too much. It's the stuff that's like the story we're talking about, IASCO flight school. It's the stuff that kind of goes under the radar that is not hardly talked about. Small community, small aviation school, which there's a ton of them, doing this type of training. And, from a general public perspective, and you can be like, what's the big deal? They're just, foreign kids flying Cessna airplanes. No, on its face value, no, it's not a big deal. You have to drill down a little bit further not a whole lot further, but a little bit further to understand motives, to understand that country's laws, their intent, you know. So, and I will touch on all of that here, but my communication with IASCO first started in December of last year, December 31st. So it's only been a month that I've really, you know, touched on this stuff. Leslie, do you have this pulled up? I'm gonna play this.
You know, and also this business about allowing more Chinese students into U.S. universities. These are not students that are learning about democracy, Mr. President, and I'm talking to President Trump. These are students that are there on a mission to collect and gather intelligence and take it back, to collect and gather intellectual property, to work inside of our labs, to work inside of our businesses, and to basically do reconnaissance and surveillance of key sites and other activities that our government does. We've been allowing up to 500,000 Chinese students since back in the Biden era, the Clinton-Gore era. So,
can you hit escape for me, Leslie? Thank you. So this is kind of where it started with me. What I did was I actually tagged IASCO right here. And then I think in one of the news articles they mentioned about spam reporting me to Facebook, and they apparently did that here where they removed their tag, right? And that happened that same day. So I did this on December 31st, 2025. Within a few hours, they removed their tag. I got no communication from IASCO, no nothing. It was really simple. It's like, IASCO, you know, you're long past due to restructure your business model for the sake of our nation. Please stop serving China's PLA. And you're talking about a 3-star general that's talking about this, right? Mm-hmm. And so I have a few different things I add on there, and you know, straight from the website. And I believe this is still on there now. So China students arrive in class of 20 to 35 students and are in Reading for 12 to 14 months.
Didn't they respond and say, and I saw in a public, I think it was part of that LA Times article, but they said they're not even from China. If you want to have a conversation, educate yourself or something like that. So
yeah, no, well, that's 3 weeks later on the next post I do, and I'll get into that. So it was a simple post. And
you know, and also this business about allowing more Chinese students into...
Which is okay. I didn't expect them to respond. But with the talk in the news articles that they've tried to reach out to me and I'm not responded, that's nonsense. So I've never been contacted by phone or by email personally from IASCO or any staff member to sit down and have a conversation about this. The only response where I was included with all other council members, inviting us to come and tour their school and see what it's all about. That was the only time where they quasi-invited me. They did say, you know, Mr. Hale's welcome to come too. So I just kind of wanted to squash those rumors because I've never got a phone call or nothing. It's just in that one letter. And I actually, you'll see later on where I've invited them to reach out to me and let's discuss this on multiple occasions before that letter even happened. So I got to scroll up here for a little bit to get here.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. A lot, seems like journalists just write or say whatever they want and just make stuff up. But let's be real here. They're not real journalists. They're really just character assassins and and propagandists. You know, they're there to discredit people that are exposing things that doesn't align with their agenda or their the way that they think, and they're there to push agendas that go along with what they believe or whatever they're getting paid for. I mean, there's a lot of useful idiots in this world. I'm not going to say there's a big conspiracy where everybody is getting paid for this. There's a lot of people that useful idiots is what I call them, and that's what they are, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And
on topic of the news agencies, so Record Searchlight did reach out to me first after this story kind of started unfolding, and I responded, and she reported it accurately. I responded to her that, hey, I'm in a convention, and then I have to go to the airport immediately thereafter. If I have time, I'll respond. Send me your questions. But I was time crunched that whole day. She sent me a couple questions, and I just didn't have time to respond. And hindsight's 2020. I'm kind of glad I didn't. And the reason why you and I both know Record Searchlight does not always report accurately. Neither does KRCR, and especially the LA Times. It's very, very slanted, and it's funny. It's actually predictable, really, and it was I kind of baited them into it, really, but they go straight to racism. Whether whatever it is that they disagree with you on, you're either labeled a misogynist, a bigot, an Islamophobe, a homophobe, a racist. It's like the go-to, let's just call them names for the sake of calling them names. And
yeah, you don't like Obama, you're racist.
It's so silly, and honestly, it affects me like none. Like I could care less. I see the comments on my Facebook now, and I see these reports and these news articles. I think KRCR. I was told, I haven't seen it, but KRCR had a segment last night or something, and I think it was Max Tedford or whatever. And yeah, that's another story. And it's all the same stuff, right? And it's like I'm kind of glad I didn't give my story, because all that they end up doing, especially Max Tedford, is just twist my words and not report things accurately. So actually on that topic, I will never interview with Max Tedford, ever.
Yeah.
No, that kid does a very massive disservice to this community. Very massive disservice. Yeah. So I'll leave that there. I'm actually, I'm in the middle of something one day, and I see, I need to go to.
Whoa. Wait, whose post is that right there?
So this is my repost of IASCO flight training.
Hold on. It says China's People Liberation Army.
Yes.
Reading. Is that something you wrote?
I wrote that.
Okay.
Correct.
Now, is that correct?
So let's start here.
Okay.
Because you have this up, Leslie, in the comments. And this was kind of a part of the baiting, really.
Yeah.
And they kind of took the bait. So I posted that right there.
Yep.
Right? Now, do I know for certain that they are not Chinese? Nope, have no clue. I can probably tell you by looking at the picture, probably the gentleman with the long hair at the end, maybe from Japan or even local. Some of them can be, domestic, of Asian descent. I don't know. I haven't pulled a thread completely on it, on whether China's PLA actually allows women pilots. I'm not sure about that, so we could probably scratch those one out. That's not the point. The point is, I'm trying to invoke a response.
Yeah.
Like I did this on purpose, and a response was what I got. So, and right, so yes, the people who are in disagreement with me, the first thing they're going to go to, oh, you misappropriated their ethnic origin, you're racist. Like, whatever, man. You call me whatever you want, right? I did this on purpose to invoke a response, and a response is what I got. Mission accomplished. So I posted that on their website, and then we had a conversation.
Yeah.
Pursue, right? And so you'll see that it says 1 week ago because we're on it currently, but you'll see in, not that we'll pull it up, but you'll see in screenshots where, timestamps and stuff like that. So they respond, and then I asked them right here, let's meet and discuss more if you like, right? And now I'm...
That was the one that I saw right there, yeah.
I'm apparently all of a sudden I'm uneducated. Now, I don't blame them, right? When your livelihood is at stake and allegations are being made, people tend to get defensive. So I don't blame them for responding the way they did.
They're saying political statements. I mean, I don't know what's political about this.
Well, I'm by definition a politician, so yes.
But you're still operating under...
right, correct. It is like a lot of this is political. However, I come with facts. I come with actual citations of...
But is it really... I don't think it's political.
Well,
personally,
it's on the political stage right now, right? When you have generals talking about this, the White House is talking about this.
But what I'm saying, this should be a nonpartisan issue.
It should be.
Have our, are we concerned with the infiltration of our government as Americans?
Correct.
And things do get polarized, and we are divided, and it does seem like we have teams and people think this way, and then you have to think the opposite way. But in reality, this is really just about protecting us, whether you're on the left or the right or the middle or atheist or, regardless of, as your neighbor, you're as an American.
So you would think that you would think that no matter what side of the aisle you're on, that our security is of the utmost importance, and that training other countries' military on our homeland is a big red flag, unless one party believes in complete open borders. So now we are leaning into the political realm of, we have one party believe that, no, it should be an open society, that we should all be free to move about anywhere on the earth. Well, that's not necessarily constitutional either. We have freedom of movement, but not freedom of immigration, right? So as we drill down through this, I respond here. I'm not going to read all this stuff. It's on my Facebook. My Facebook is completely public. You guys can read all this stuff for yourself. But I respond to them, and then I leave a couple, quick video, and then the Breitbart article. Mm-hmm. Not much there, but enough to spark a conversation. So, and right after I made that, I guess you can call it a meme. Like, I don't know, it's not like necessarily like a funny meme. It just was to provoke a response.
Yeah.
Right. I'm sorry. I got to go back to my page. And of course it goes. All right. So I post this at the same time. And you'll see the timestamp right here. Right.
A few weeks later, 22 days later from the original post.
Yes, correct. The original post was December 31st with Michael Flynn. And again, I'm tagging him like, you know, talk to me. You know, I mean, I wasn't in December of the 31st. It wasn't like a formal request to have a conversation. It was just a statement, right? So then 2 days after that post, instead of deciding to talk to me or reach out to me, actually, no, I'm sorry. It wasn't 2 days. It was the same day. Same day of that post, and it was at 8 o'clock, actually almost 9 o'clock that night. It was 8:44 that night. They send a letter to all of City Council, the city manager, and to KRCR. So, again, I'm not going to read all this, but it, you know, disclaiming some of the things that I'm saying and, you know, saying they're not a political organization. I get that. But that it's basically baseless. There's no facts or merit behind it. Well, me, you know me, Leslie knows me. Being who I am, it's like I don't get backed into a corner. That's not something I do. When something like this occurs, I'm like, cool. I want to be transparent. That says a lot of things that are negative about me. That, which was supposed to just be a comment on their page, they are now including KRCR, and they want to kind of make this more of a public scene. Like, okay, let's do that. So I post the letter, and all that transpired there. So, and when they sent the email over, when IASCO sent the email over, they didn't include everything. They cut off a lot of the communication that we had back and forth in the last slide that I showed you guys. So it kind of painted a picture, you know, that, oh, Darin's being unreasonable, when I actually, in my comments, I said, I'm thrilled. We have a flight school here. I'm thrilled that you train domestic people. I'm even thrilled that you train people from across the globe. I am not thrilled that you are training another country's military people. That's what I'm not thrilled about. That's where this all stems from. It's about what we are doing for another country's military. So, I'm not going to read all this. I just went ahead and posted all of the feedback in its entirety that we had, so that everyone can see it. They didn't have to search for it. It's all on my page. And then I'm posting my evidence to my claims, right? So some of this stuff is on their...
Go back to that last one real quick.
You bet. Some of this is on their website, and then here is some...
Yeah, so our international, all China students arrive in classes of 20 to 35 students and are in Reading for 12 to 14 months for their training.
Correct.
Okay. And that's from them.
Yep, that's on their website.
Okay. Yeah.
So, to bring evidence to my claims, this is Chinese law.
And so where do we do our background check? We get the background information from the Chinese government?
Well, that...
You know what I mean? Because they say, okay, we do background checks, but
right.
Where do we get that information from?
So I'm glad you brought that up, because I do want to make something very clear. I am not alleging at any capacity, and nor have I ever, that IASCO or any staff member has done anything illegal. They're doing everything, I believe, by the law.
Yeah.
Right? Because our FAA, other departments, whether it's immigration or, you know, students coming over on visas, you know, all that stuff, there's a legal pathway for all that to happen. I think they're following all of those demands. There's no claim that anything illegal is happening. The claim is we're training military people that could potentially become our adversary in the war theater, right? So her Miranda Voorhees, sounds like Voorhees, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Basically, it's misinformation in that letter. It's misinformation. It's casting a really negative light. And like, okay, you open the door for this to be public, so this is where we're going. So I'm literally providing evidence. This is Chinese law. All citizens of the People's Republic of China, regardless of ethnic status, race, occupation, family background, religious belief, and education, are obliged to serve in the military in accordance with this provision. I don't even like reading our California state law or our federal laws.
Let alone Chinese law.
Let alone Chinese. But if you want information, you want facts, you have to do the research, right? And so that's what I did.
So the report came out. It said right now in the United States of America, at one of our universities, there is an organized, orchestrated spy ring. To put this in perspective, when I got here, I said, when I was told that there was a Chinese law in place that required Chinese nationals, including students that come to the United States on visas, and by the way, we take 300,000 Chinese students a year into our universities. There's a law in the books that says they have to provide intelligence gathering and information to the CCP. We also had information in Congress before I even got here that they were setting up these programs to organize spies and push them into our universities using visas. And when I got here and realized that there was no law stopping the visa program, even though we had that information, I immediately launched a bill that would end visas for Chinese students. Now, nothing against Chinese students that want to learn, but if you have a government that is enlisting them, and not just enlisting them, requiring them by law, under penalty to be espionage agents when they get here, we cannot keep inviting them into our nation. And so time after time over the last few years, we have found Chinese students with drones, cameras on our military bases, stealing information at our universities, and nothing has been done. So when this report came out 2 days ago, I was not surprised because we launched this bill and we've been advocating and trying to get someone's attention that there were spy rings here right now. Now, hopefully, we will see some action, not only by the university that's been informed of this, where there's students saying it's happening, but by the government to do an investigation.
Oh, okay, hold on.
Yeah.
I've got one thing to say.
Yeah.
So if all people are required to be in the military, then by default, if there's people here from China, then they are part of the PLA, right? I mean, that's a no-brainer.
Right.
So, I mean, it could seem conspiratorial to say, oh, these guys are part of the PLA, but if everyone is required to be part of the military and they're, you know what I mean? So that's interesting. I didn't actually know that, and I just kind of like a light bulb went off. I'm like going, okay.
And her statements in this video is exactly my stance. It's exactly my stance. And when I saw this first, and I'm like, interesting. The media outlets that have covered this here locally, all they keep referring to is Newsmax, a Newsmax
conspiracy, right wing,
right.
You know.
That's not the point. The point is you have
if you look at the facts,
representative of Congress saying this is happening and we need to change that. I'm like, interesting.
Does China train any U.S. military people? I mean, I'm just curious. I don't think China is going to train U.S. people from the U.S. that are in the military.
So on that reverse role, is China doing it? I don't have evidence of that.
For sure.
Is it possible?
I highly doubt it.
What we do is, especially with like our NATO countries, we have joint operations with other joint training operations with other foreign countries. A lot of those happen out in international waters. Some happen on land. but it's a far cry from what's actually this is about here.
Yeah.
And so when this senator was talking about this, I'm like, man, is that actually really factual? Is that really true? That's when I started digging into military law. I mean, the internet is, for all the bad things that it is, has pretty amazing things when you can actually search in just a few clicks, what you need to know. And I found exactly what she was talking about.
Yeah, awesome.
And so here you go again. Article 20, Chinese law. Male citizens who have reached the age of 18 shall be enlisted for active service.
I mean, that's pretty cut and dry.
It's black and white.
I'll admit, at first, I was kind of like, well, Darin, to say, in my mind, I'm kind of going like, you might have been baiting, but I'm like, that's kind of, but now that you go, I'm like, okay, all of those people in the picture might not have been from China, but I mean, a lot of them looked very Chinese to me. And even if those people exactly in that picture aren't, the fact that they admit to having a certain amount of students that are trained for a certain amount of time from China, and they obviously are automatically enlisted in the military, you put all those little pieces together. I don't care if a senator says it or if Newsmax says it, that's
right.
That's not, there's no gray area there.
Right. Well, and, there's the nuances to it too. Like, okay, that's what Chinese law says. But then there's like, you have Chinese kids that turn 18 that have disabilities or stuff, so not necessarily every single Chinese youth that turns 18 is automatically suited up for military, right? So there are some nuances to it, and I reflect back on that, whether women serve as pilots or not. I don't know. I haven't pulled the thread on that one yet. I think it's not really relevant for the conversation, but it's there. It's black and white. And what I really make it a point of is when I'm posting these, I'm giving you the address of where you can look this up for yourself. And beyond just the screenshots, I'll show in the comments where I posted where I'm getting all of my sources from. So you pull the thread a little bit more on IASCO. So here's their Statement of Information of Corporation from the Secretary of State.
Okay.
And I found this pretty fascinating. Like, who are these people? I could not locate this name. I tried to pull the thread on that. Don't know who that is.
Jane Doe?
Yeah,
I'm just joking.
Jane Doe number 1. But John Doe, wow, I found him. So, and he's listed as the CEO of the company, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Of what company?
Of IASCO.
Right here?
Mm-hmm. Listed as
what
the CEO.
What the heck?
Yep.
That is crazy.
No, just by looking at that doesn't mean anything, right?
Okay,
that
okay.
Could, that
yeah.
could be.
No,
that
that's
could be
true. He could be a
American
total
citizen.
patriotic American.
Yep.
100%.
Yep. Just
100%.
that alone is not enough to.
But I mean, just all the things kind of adding. Okay, well, let's just get into what you found.
Right. So I'm like, well, who are these people? Again, couldn't find her. And this guy here, I believe is local.
Okay.
Don't know who he is.
Okay.
I think he's local. I know more, but I'm not gonna.
And this is all public information.
Yeah,
We're not doxing anybody
it's all
or anything.
public
Okay.
information.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, for sure.
Yep. So happens this CEO has a Facebook page.
Mm-hmm.
So you pull the thread a little bit, like, okay, he's from Hong Kong, which is China, by the way. Because
yes.
the reason
100%.
The reason I'm stating that is because in one of the articles when they're saying we enroll students from China, from Hong Kong, and then they list a couple other countries. I'm like, well,
talk about Hong Kong as a different place. Wow. Okay.
One and the same. Right, and then I found this interesting. It's
well, maybe your average person doesn't know that.
Could be.
But that's kind of an interesting.
I found it fascinating that they were
we
were drawing a comparison, like separating the two.
We have people from California. We have people from Redding,
United States.
We have people.
Yeah.
I mean,
so, and then I saw this. That's interesting. Like, what is this company? Who is this? Right. So you can pull the thread on that one.
JTFA.
JTFA, and it actually.
Wait. So how does this tie in? I got lost for a second.
Yeah, you bet. Let me back up.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it is on the CEO's Facebook page.
Okay.
That he works.
Oh, works for them, and
right?
with it. Okay.
But look, he's present with IASCO, 10 years, 9 months, 20 years, 9 months with this company.
Oh wow.
And present also.
Okay. All
right.
right. Now I'm following you.
All right. So you go here. And that's the location
Okay.
of this company. Here it is. And we will get back to that company in a minute. So just to kind of follow on the Facebook post, just so that I can substantiate my claims of flying over infrastructure and collecting data, like here's my evidence. Like and this is where my equipment comes in, where I can go into history, and I can go back.
Flying directly over Keswick Dam, flying over Shasta Dam, and that it looks like. Am I correct on that?
So, yeah. Well, I'm gonna zoom in for you. There you go. That's
Shasta Dam.
That's definitely.
Or is it?
No, that's Shasta Dam.
Yeah. That's Shasta Dam. It looked like they went by right over Keswick Dam.
You'll
also,
you'll see those in future.
Okay.
photos
Okay.
Too.
I'll quit jumping ahead then.
Yeah, you're cool. So that's obviously a deliberate. We're gonna circle the dam here, right? Here's another flight. Another flight right over it. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of showing you like a zoomed out of this aircraft. There's your tail number.
And this is all the same flight that we're talking.
No,
these are different flights.
Well, some of these are different planes.
That first one that you showed, where you zoomed in on Shasta Dam, it flew right over Keswick Dam also. If you go,
it probably did.
well,
It's not.
Go back to it. Look,
Right there.
right there. Okay.
So
Oh no, Keswick Dam's there. I'm sorry. What is that body?
this would be Whiskey Town right here. So
Yeah. So
right.
isn't that Keswick?
Keswick would be right around in here, I believe.
Maybe.
Or no, I'm sorry, right here. Yep, right there.
Okay. Maybe I'm off a little bit. Maybe that was America.
Well, so I'm on to a different.
Yeah, go ahead.
Flight here, but you'll see these because there's one flight in particular where they hit all of them. Again, here's another flight, zooming in. Now that is Keswick. That's Keswick Dam right there. Right. And this flight, this is.
I mean, that's all over Keswick Dam and
that's over,
Shasta Dam.
all over all of them.
Yeah, and
So you got multiple passes over Shasta.
well, I mean, there's so many.
There's Whiskey Town.
There's so many areas to fly.
There is, right? It's Shasta County, right?
This is critical infrastructure. I mean, it should just be.
This is all that same flight. This is
Yeah.
all our dams in the area in the same flight. So you've got Whiskey Town there. Now you got Keswick, and then I forget the name of this dam. It's, but that's just right up the mountain here too.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not.
Is that Trinity?
No,
or?
it's not Trinity. There's another dam.
That's
up
okay.
Here, but yeah. So that ends that post, but when comments are made by IASCO that none of this is substantiated, it's misinformation, blah, 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 I give you all of the evidence.
Yeah.
Here's Chinese law. Here's the book, and I'll touch on that. Here's the book where this kind of got me going about this. The Breitbart article, which also touches on this book. And here's Senator Moody. I think this is her. This is her status. So right here, so 2 weeks ago, I introduced a bill to deny student visas to Chinese nationals because of CCP based on the law requiring them to cooperate with intelligence gathering. The number caught here and arrested are on our bases has exploded. So I'm going to exit out of there. So, but I was curious about, did she really introduce the bill? Well, matter of fact, she did. Last March, in 2025. There it is. Now we're talking about Congress, right? Congress, for lack of a better word, is defunct, right? This is a very good bill. Like, we don't want to be training other countries' military that are our adversaries and have the potential of meeting them in the war theater, right? We shouldn't be doing it, especially on homeland. And Congress doesn't do anything. She introduced a really good bill, and Congress does nothing.
I don't think we should be training any, even if they're allies right now. If we're going to help somebody, I think maybe we can go train them in their own country. And, you know, I don't know. I mean, that's a larger conversation. But
I'm kind of like more like on the, you know, the America first, or even more so like the America only agenda. Like, you know what? To each country their own.
Yep. We'll save that for another day. Yeah. That would take a few hours or a few days to talk about that one.
Yeah, it's a different topic. So I think that is. You know what I didn't do? That's on most relevant. A lot of people don't realize you gotta change this from most relevant to all comments in order to see everything. But I think those are all my citations on that post.
Let's take a pause for a second.
All right, welcome back. Sorry about that interruption. John had to take off. I'm stepping in. But I've been watching from my studio space, so I am on track, on board, know where we're at. So take us to the next step. Where do we go from here, Darin?
Thanks, Leslie. I appreciate that. After IASCO sent that letter to all city council, city manager, KRCR, the city manager for City of Anderson responded, and very polite, and it's true, it's accurate. I'm acting on my own capacity and not as a representative of the city. And she responds. That's Miranda Voorhees responds, and I when I'm reading it, I'm like, oh my gosh, really? It's this section here where she's kind of asking that the council invoke some type of social media policy. And I'm just like, you gotta be kidding me.
Okay, but let me pause you there.
Yeah.
And as somebody who knows local politics, who's been involved, we've seen this stuff happen. We've seen much more egregious actions taken by other local politicians. And when that goes before the boards, it has overwhelmingly been somebody's personal thoughts are their personal thoughts. I mean, comes to mind the situation with Jessica French talking about the male genitalia size of other sitting elected officials. Yeah. And posting that on social media. And then the overwhelming response is, well, it's her First Amendment right. She's allowed to say what she wants. We're not going to control that on the board, right? And I mean, that's a county board seat.
And that's my stance too, really, on it, is like, you know what? At my personal capacity, I won't be silenced. There will not be a policy created that will stop me from speaking my mind. I'm, no matter what, whatever city council decides to do moving forward, that is not going to change my mind on my freedom of speech. I have a First Amendment right to say whatever I want to say, and I will use that. Yeah, and I stand on that. Really,
Right.
it's like,
And
it's
the
no
First
other
Amendment-
boards, no other council members' decision to try and censor other people. It's out of your wheelhouse. It's enshrined in the Constitution.
Absolutely. And the First Amendment does protect your speech as long as it is not hateful, it does not incite violence, it does not, there are parameters on free speech, but it also is not without consequence. We saw that
100%.
during, the death of Charlie Kirk, and people are getting fired, and during other situations it, where you have freedom of speech, but it doesn't mean everybody's going to like it. And this is an example. They don't like what your free speech is, but it's not without consequence. But if everything you're saying is from their website, their postings, your communications, bring it to the court of public opinion. I am all for.
Well, and that's why I actually really value a lot of these social media platforms. It's a love-hate, really. I actually really loathe Facebook, but our entire community, Shasta County, is on Facebook. So if I want to communicate to the public in a quick, very simple way, Facebook is where I go. I actually enjoy X so much more. Where I get a lot of my information is on X and different news organizations, sources. I follow, I think all of Congress, including several members in the state. So I go there, and that's X is more the public square, but here locally, this is our public square. Facebook is our public square locally. So I use it, and I use it pretty regularly.
And you should, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so going back to this.
Yeah, so on the, just briefly on the censoring part, it's not going to stop me, right? What you will get is you won't get me popping in and calling people a bunch of foul language and names. Like, they come in onto my comment section and call me names, and I can bring facts and be pointed without being disrespectful. So if people choose to go that route, that's on them. You can see some of that stuff in my comment section. There's people come in there, usually troll accounts, a few followers or whatever, and drop some stupid, name calling stuff. But whatever, it's their First Amendment right too.
Right.
Right. I'm not sitting there deleting all those comments. They're there for people to see if they want to see them. So, yeah, back on this second post where I basically mentioned to them, hey, I received your second email. Here was our city manager's response. Here is Miranda Voorhees' response to the city manager. We got the policy thing that she's requesting. And I just say, hey, here are some more facts on Chinese law. And I'm just highlighting it and pointing it out. And again, I try to make it a point of where I'm getting my information from, so I'm not, just screenshotting something for the sake of doing it. Good. These are all on my Facebook page. People can go and read them. I don't need to sit here and read all of these things. And then this is from 2021 during COVID. It's interesting. This is the same reporter that just did my story, or did IASCO story about me just a few days ago. But she was also the same reporter in 2021 where it says IASCO had been drawing about 90% of its students from China.
So when they say that, they made a very strong point to comment back to you that those students were not Chinese.
Yeah.
Yeah, on their website, they say we have 20 to 30 Chinese students at a time for, 12 to 14 weeks or 12 to 14 months. And then there's, documented evidence that 90% of their students are from China. Yet they're trying to make you seem like it is a far reach. You are insinuating something that's not even possible.
Right.
I don't think it takes a lot. So I love that this is where you bring the evidence and you
100%. Like here it all is. I'm you want facts. You want to try to claim misinformation. It's like, I'm just providing what I'm seeing. I'm not making any of this up. Like, this is all out there, right? Here it is, Action News. Again, over 90% of IASCO students, right? I'm going to stop here because there's something on here that's I'll probably touch on here in a little bit, but it's important. On the claim that I made on my original post, where I made that meme type thing and said, China's PLA, with knowingly that they're probably not all Chinese, but with the claim of pointing all the arrows to them. My rebuttal is, you haven't really proven they're not, right? I don't expect IASCO to hand over IDs and passports of all these students to prove that they are not Chinese. And what's funny is in the comments of on their page, when we're going back and forth, we're talking with IASCO, she says, these are not even Chinese students. But then later in an article, on one of the articles that came out, it stated, well, some are, right? Well, which one is it? So now I'm being gaslit or flat out lied to, right? You said they're not Chinese students, but the article is saying, well, maybe a few are. Like, again, that's not even my point. My point was to get you to have a conversation, to get you to react, to provoke you into explaining what's going on there in the public square, right? That's like, I don't do this closed door stuff, hey, I'm going to do a tour of your facility and you're going to stage it where everyone's happy and gleeful and, man, these are just wonderful young people, and they probably are, just here to get an education. I've seen it, right? When somebody's business or somebody's livelihood's on the line, they're going to sell it. I'm not interested in a sales pitch. I'm just looking at what I find, and bringing it to the public forum. That's it. So right down here on the very bottom, 1993 company law, this is Chinese law, requires all Chinese companies to establish and maintain an active organization of the CCP to carry out party activities. This ensures the CCP knowledge and direction regardless of whether a company is a state-owned enterprise. So later, when we get into it, my claim is this company is owned by China, like the state. I believe that's actually true. So we go on. So Peter Schweitzer, to stop really quick, Peter Schweitzer is the guy that wrote that book that I mentioned, The Invisible Coup. And I have it on order. It's like, I got to read this book. And he's been doing tons of interviews since this book came out. It's New York Times best-selling author, several weeks in a row, and has been a New York Times best-selling author with several books of his. So this guy's legit. This guy knows what he's doing. He does his research. He knows what he's talking about. So I wanted to reiterate to IASCO, I think this is after probably the first news article came out, and it was Record Searchlight, I believe, and I read it, and I'm like, yeah, there's some untruths there. There's some truths, but there's some untruths there. So I'm just reminding them, this is not going away. And still, to this day, as I sit here in this room, this is still not going away. There's more to the story that I cannot talk about at this time. So I'm just giving them a reminder. Here's Peter Schweitzer again, calling it unacceptable that Americas are training Chinese pilots. And here you have, and I'll click on, I believe I made a reel. I'll click on this video. This lady is the secretary with the Department of War. That's former DOD. So this isn't just some random person on the internet. These are government officials that are either spokespersons or in capacity of experts.
But one of the main things here is still the looming threat of China everywhere. And we have a colleague here, Breitbart, Peter Schweitzer. He's got a new book out called The Invisible Coup. And one of the things that he points out is that there are thousands of Chinese pilots that are being trained every year in California and Arizona. And this is strengthening the CCP's military power. Were you aware of this story? And is this something that you guys are looking into at this point?
We are absolutely tracking all of the sort of activity that is being done by the Chinese Communist Party across the United States and across the world. It is a threat that the United States now, thanks to President Trump, really understands. Remember, we had Beijing Biden in the previous administration. Sure. Now we have got President Trump, who is clear-eyed to that threat, and we are going to make sure that we are taking care of our homeland, that it's secure from those sorts of threats, and in our hemisphere as well. I think that's been a real priority for this president and this secretary. We've seen the Chinese all over the Western Hemisphere, all over the Panama Canal, and that is why the Panama Canal has been such a security priority for this president and this secretary. And we will continue to make sure that the entire department is focused on that threat, and where we can root it out, we absolutely will, and we will protect the American people and our hemisphere from those threats.
Across the U.S., at least 16 flight schools, Peter writes, operating out of taxpayer-funded airports are training Chinese cadets, sometimes without disclosing their foreign military ties. They do so by sending future military pilots to the United States, posing as civilians. It just feels like something that we got to crack down on right away.
Absolutely. You're exactly correct. That kind of behavior is unacceptable. And we, of course, work in concert with our interagency partners, whether it's the FBI or the Department of Homeland Security, to make sure that if we uncover any of that activity, we refer it quickly to law enforcement authorities that can act on it.
Yeah, it feels really essential here that we get this one under control. I think this will really help restore some faith. But one of the main things here.
So there you have it from the Department of War. Then I post this. What do we got? Same day. Where it turns out IASCO Flight Training School is owned by China. So here's how I come to that. This is that JTFA.
That's the one that the CEO works with or at.
He's the CEO of both of them. Correct. Ownership, CEO.
And it almost looks like it's like some sort of shell corp or fake, because when you had their Facebook page up, it was like there were 2 followers. So it's either some private entity that doesn't do much with social media, or it's just a cover.
Whether this company exists or not, it's like, to me, it's kind of irrelevant. I mean, do they have a flight school in China similar to IASCO? Sure. Okay. Yeah. Then train your Chinese military there. Like, you don't need to bring them here to do that. You have a flight school. You're claiming to have a flight school there. Do it there. So, and the name of that company for JTFA, it looks like it's Utan. I believe that's how you pronounce it. excuse my dialect, Utan International Flight Academy. So that is who this company is. Again, that is where they're based out of. But that's not the only thing that's based out of. I don't even know how to pronounce that. Ingdale, maybe? China. So now IASCO is a subsidiary of Utan International Flight Academy, based in China, province of Shandong. The former owners of IASCO had contracts with 4 Chinese airlines. Going forward, the school will rely on its parent company, JTFA, to set up contracts with airlines. So now that it's been sold to this company, now China has a say in who they're contracting with. These are other things located in that same region. And I'm not making a claim here, but I think it's interesting that the same place this other company is based out of is also the same place as their State Security Bureau. This unit is a part of the Ministry of State Security, focusing on counterintelligence, foreign intelligence gathering, and internal security. It is also a major strategic hub for the PLA Navy, serving as the headquarters of the North Sea Fleet. And I never really explained it in my post. This is like a Chat GPT thing where I plugged in a question, and this is what it came up with. This is key, and because this right here, the CAAC, is also on IASCO's website, and I'm going to get into that here in just a moment. So, and this is where I'm linking sources also, right? So I plug this information in, it kicks me out, its answer, and then provides me down here a link. And so I go to that link and I read this whole document. It's lengthy. So the U.S. Department of Defense 2023 military and security developments involving in the People's Republic of China reports that states, however, the PLAAF may supplement its military transports with civilian aircraft in a combat scenario. That's a little bit alarming, right? Now we're talking about weaponizing civilian aircraft, right? Well, we saw that in 9/11. Are Cessnas that big of a threat? I'll let everybody else be the judge of that. And I'm not claiming that there is some plan. There's no claims at all that there is some plan by the PLF to have students here on homeland take control of Cessnas and do any type of thing. I'm not making that claim.
Would you be able to live with yourself after knowing that they're flying over massive infrastructure like our dams and our waterways, and that this has been something that's been put out there? Because what we're realizing in government locally, in our own state, in our own country, is we function on a implied consent, right?
Right.
So, hi, I'm evil. I'm here to do evil. This is what we're going to do. Yep. And when you do nothing and you say nothing, you've now given consent for them to do it, right? And they're doing that within our government. They're doing that within the legislation that they're putting forward. So when it is in writing and it is put out there and it is your duty, hey, this was brought to my attention. I'm now an elected official with a responsibility to get this out to the public, and not even an elected official, long before you were an elected official. Hi, I'm a watchman protecting the people I care about.
That's right.
You know, because you were fighting for our community long before you were elected. Could you, just you as a person, as Darin Hale, and I already know the answer to this because, you know, you're one of my closest people. Could you live with yourself if knowing that these could be weaponized, knowing that they're here, and knowing the flight patterns,
And
they
say
break
nothing.
down and you say nothing, and then one of these is weaponized into one of these, you know, water structure infrastructures. They take out, I mean, if they take out Shasta Dam, even if they hit the pump house or whatever, they're crippling the power infrastructure. They're crippling water to the entire state. There's so much that can come out of it. Could you live with yourself?
You're hitting the nail on the head. I absolutely cannot live with myself. Knowing what I know now, in the words of Tina Peters, you cannot unlearn what you've learned, right? Knowing what I know now, I couldn't just stay silent on this topic. And I wanted to be pretty strategic about how I went about it. That's why I really chose the public square to be the place to have this debate. I'm glad you talked on or spoke about the dams again for a moment, because I do want to clarify something, because there's a little misnomer there. Shasta Dam is supposed to be rated to withstand even a nuclear blast, right? So the chances of someone attacking the dam and causing a breach are very small. It can happen, right? And even in the one of the articles that was posted just recently, I believe it was Miranda Voorhees said, you can take tours of Shasta Dam. You can just walk right in and just take tours. Yeah. But where can you not access? And that is the electrical grid that is below on the ground next to the dam.
Right.
That is not open to the public. You do not have to take out or sabotage the dam itself to affect our critical infrastructure.
And that's why I was
it's
saying
the electrical components that are next to it.
And that's why I was saying, if they did, I mean, civilian aircraft, right? We're not talking a ginormous plane. They hit the pump house. They hit, you know, like you said, that electrical component that's kind of off to the side there. They can hit any one of those smaller infrastructures, and a small plane can do that.
Small plane can do that.
A car can do that. A tractor can do
Little harder
anything.
for
Can
a
do
car,
that, right?
but,
Yeah, it's harder for a car.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. But I'm just saying, like, we're not saying it's going to be like, you know, the Oroville spillway where they take
100%.
out a chunk of it and water's just flowing everywhere and flooding. But the public needs to know that this is a danger. It can be done.
That's right.
And that's what you're seeing.
That's right. That's so important, because at every one of these dam locations where I've shown where they've flown over, you know, these dams, there's massive electrical systems attached to all of these dams. I mean, it's a hydro plant. It is literally produced to create energy. Shasta Dam itself, I believe, is a 710 kilowatt generator, which is right around 700,000 homes that it powers. That is a ton of energy. That's a big, they're controlled by WAPA, Western Area Power, it's not authority, administration, right? So it's a key infrastructure, you know, hitting our electrical grid. And that's not even a conspiracy. That Chinese having their hands in our, even in our smaller transformers where it's chips and stuff like that, where they actually, and there are plenty of government documents that show China has infiltrated literally the back door into our electrical grid. Like, that's, all of that's a concern. So even if it's not a plane, again, we're also talking about surveillance and reconnaissance, right? So just flying over these alone and registering, okay, there's this many transformers, or, you know, there's all of this going on, have things change. You know, you don't have to go over it every day. You can just go over it, you know, briefly, you know, once a month or whatever, and just an update, because they're required by law to update the PLA on their findings, update the PLA. Whether they are in communication with the PLA on a daily basis, I have no idea, right? But one thing is for certain, when they get back home to China, I absolutely believe they are debriefed on what their findings, 100%. So there's that whole electrical, it's the infrastructure component of it that is a massive concern. And again, citation after citation, I am bringing to the public everything that I have learned or am learning as I go, one or the other. A lot of this stuff I've known beforehand, but I've tucked it away. It wasn't until General Flynn came out with it, then we have the senator come out about it, and now this book with Peter Schweitzer. It's like, okay, now is the time to bring this to the forefront.
How much confirmation do you need?
That's right. Right? Because if I would have brought this out before any of those things, I would have been disregarded completely. Like, oh, he's just a conspiracy theorist. So timing was really key on this. And here we are. So again, all my citations, and that is your CEO right there. So that is, I will probably butcher his first name, but I want to pronounce it Saibun, and last name Chu, Saibun Chu. But at least that's the picture on his Facebook page. I kind of made it a point that because he has children, I left his children out of the post. So,
right.
But I believe that's his wife. So, exiting out of here. So I'm making this claim. It's owned by China. Trying to provoke more of a response, watching some of the stuff that's happening. And now we're on to this. And I'm going to play this because this is important. So now I've leveled up, and now I'm actually
tagging that page.
I'm actually tagging the JTFA along with IASCO. And this conversation is actually, it's in your face. You'll hear it.
Take a second and explain to the people how in the United States of America we are training, sometimes at taxpayer expense, the very pilots who are going to be the pilots that go after carrier strike groups in the South China Sea, in the Straits of Taiwan, when the invasion of Taiwan, which is coming, comes, sir.
Yeah. Well, so China has a pilot problem, Steve. They need 5,000 new pilots every year, military and commercial. They can only produce 1,250 domestically. That's what the Chinese government says. So what they've done is they send pilots over here to train, paid for by the government, by the way. It's $90,000 per student to come and train to the United States. They're being trained right now at an Air Force base, a former Air Force base outside of Merced, California. This was a base that was crucial in World War II. It was crucial in the Cold War. It was mothballed at the end of the Cold War. You had a flight school established. It's owned by a Korean investor. It involves a lot of Chinese. They're training at that air base close to 1,000 pilots a year. And what happens is these thousands of pilots come and train in the United States. They go back to China. The best pilots that train in the United States then go on for advanced training by the People's Liberation Army Air Force. The rest will become civilian pilots. But even China's civilian pilots have a military purpose. And that's one of the things the Pentagon has talked about for years. So think about that. We're allowing this to happen, an adversarial country that says that they are a war with us. It's unrestricted warfare. It's disintegration warfare as they've defined it. And we are literally training their pilots at a time, by the way, Steve, when we have a shortage of domestic pilots inside the United States. It's stunning. That's something I think that can be fixed almost immediately by simply saying, I'm sorry, we're not going to grant student visas to pilots come and train to then fly against us in a possible future war.
Take a second and explain to the people how in the United States of America.
So Peter Schweitzer touches on that too, and you'll hear in what he said. He said he mentions Air Base out of Merced. That's Atwater, California, right? So that is that Sierra Academy flight school, which seems to have a South Korea component to it, and he touched on that. But he also said there are Chinese ties to the South Korean component, whether it's investors or PLA. Not perfectly clear on that. I did pull a thread a little bit on some other schools. There is one in Sacramento. It's part of EVA Airlines. And it sounds like that one's Taiwan-based. And I think I was getting too much in the weeds. And so I pulled back. I'm like, you know what? I need to focus on what sphere of influence I do have. So I'm going to keep it local, right? I cannot take on all these other flight schools and do all my research on this. Like, this is what's happening in my community. This is where I'm going to maintain my focus. So I pulled back from researching. There's a lot of very interesting research on the Sierra Academy Flight School. Actually has some 9/11 ties. So if you pull the thread on that, there's some interesting articles to read on that. But that's off topic.
But the other interesting thing he said was this could be ended very easily, right? Like he said, why are we doing this? We're at a place where we're vulnerable, where this doesn't seem like a good decision for us when it comes to national security. It could be ended very easily. He says, let's just stop issuing visas for them to come here and train. But it can also be ended very easily when earlier they were talking about a lot of these schools and trainings are happening on government-ran properties. The Reading Airport is ran by the city of Reading, and we're paying for. I mean, it does have, we've got the United flights, which I greatly appreciate in all my recent travels.
Right.
The United flights, they are nice, right? So we've got income coming in, but how much of that income is based on this, and how much, what do we have that we can control on this? Right. And those are good questions to bring locally, because if we can stop this, and how do we stop this? Acting local could be that step. How do we find out if we're training Chinese militants to take out our own country on something that we're paying for?
That's right. Well, and to pull that curtain back just slightly, I'm not gonna hover over it out of respect for our sister city. But the building they're in, I believe, is leased, and they're leasing it from the city of Reading. So I'll just drop it right there.
You're just giving enough information that if they want to pull that thread and look into it as something under their jurisdiction.
City of Reading City Council has absolutely within their wheelhouse to look further into it if they want to. I have not asked personally any of them to do such things. But again, as the curtain gets pulled back, people will invest their time and energy in the things that they want to. I understand City of Reading's got big budget woes. They have their own.
They have their own fires they're dealing with. However,
dealing with, correct.
I mean, there was a post this morning. I just tagged you in it and said that you were going to be doing the show, and we'll post it there, where they're talking about that you brought this up. So there are people in our community that are concerned, and they probably do want to know, hey, what can I do to act locally? How can I get involved? And I know you said you're going to have a call to action at the end of this, which I love. We try to do that at Mountaintop all the time.
I don't have a call to action, no.
Oh, you said where we go from here. So I figured it was going to be a call to action.
It's not like a call to public action, but we'll get there. So I think finally this was my last post yesterday. Again, bringing facts and citation to my claims, right? And this time I just solely did the JTFA. try and give IASCO a break, because I do know that they have local citizens on staff there, and they're probably getting very tired of all this. And there is some thought that I put behind that, like, I'm not trying to overly bombard you, but when claims are made in newspapers and media that are contrary to what I'm bringing, I'm going to rebut that and show you the facts. So, and that's what I do here. So we have, this is from Stanford University. So the rise of state-connected private sector in China, and this is from 2023, right? And I'm not going to read all of that. It is there for everyone's viewing pleasure. So, but it just goes on to say that China has a very massive, like the government of China has a very massive control on private business in China. I think it's less so much on the small brick and mortar mom and pop shops, Chinese food, whatever right. those businesses are.
But the law you cited said every owned.
That's what it said.
Yeah.
That's what it said. Has there been amendments to that law? I can't remember what that date was, like 93 or 83. Have there been amendments to that law? Possibly. But 2023 Stanford study clearly shows they still have a very large hand over private business in China. So now you're connecting JTFA, who literally, by citation and evidence, hands students over to the PLA for training. And you heard a key thing that Peter Schweitzer said. He said, even the civilian base, so they're obviously we have civilian Chinese pilots, but even the civilian ones have a military component to it, which I believe is like, we can call on you and you will do our bidding. You will go to war. You will do what we tell you to do when we need you, right? And now here we have all of these Chinese students that we have trained in aircraft. Right. They go on to fly bigger aircraft, whether it is for Hong Kong, Taiwan, companies all across the world. At one single command, if they are citizens of China, one single command, they have to obey that. They will face severe prison, if not treason and death, if they do not obey.
Because
China
in China,
law.
They actually do.
And they carry
have consequences for treason.
Yeah,
in America, you can,
they don't have a book and release policy like we do. Yeah. I wanted quickly the CAA, which here I'll back up a little bit. This is on IASCO's website, right? It's the Civil Aviation Administration of China. That is China's version of our FAA. I believe that's apples to apples. But if you look at it, yes, the Chinese government directly owns and operates major flight training institutions. This is a different institution, which is owned by the CAAC, right? And then you pull the thread down here. Regulatory controls. The CAAC is the National Aviation Authority that controls training standards and authorizes training facilities both in China and abroad. We are the abroad. Training partnerships. In addition to public universities, Chinese airlines, often state-owned, and the CAAC send pilot candidates to numerous authorized flight schools, including institutions in the U.S., Canada, Australia, and Europe. I'm not making this stuff up, folks. You can pull the thread on it. You can do your own research. It's all right there. I am hopeful that I not only have brought just public awareness to this. If I was on staff, if I was Miranda Voorhees, I think after a time, after the defense mechanism has subsided, where you're defending your school, right? And I get that. I don't blame her for that. And again, I don't think they're doing anything illegal. But after all of those emotions subside, and you think and you look at the evidence, can staff live with themselves if this is true? Can they sleep at night that if something happens in the near or further future where some of these students they trained are now harming or killing American citizens or their own family members? I couldn't live with that. Right. That's something that they will have to journey on their own. But the facts there are undeniable. So that's it. I don't really have a call to action. My comment on where do we go from here is this isn't over.
Right.
Right. Since I have come out publicly about this, some other people in the background, where I will not mention any names, have contacted me, come to me. You can call them whistleblowers, whatever, and given me more information.
Yeah.
I'm not going to bring any of that information to light unless I have evidence. Same thing I did here. If I don't have evidence and can prove that any of this is true, then I'm not going to put it on Facebook. So this is still evolving. There are other components to this than just the Chinese flight school or the PLA's involvement. But that's my story is the Chinese military is being trained by us, and we're doing it here locally. That's my story. The other stuff is just more fluff, really. It's just more stuff that we'll see what comes of it. I've asked, or I've mentioned several times to IASCO, which I believe it, she's running the IASCO Facebook page. I'm guessing it's her. Said, reach out to me, let's talk. I've said it multiple times, and I said it before she even wrote that letter. I've never received a single phone call from IASCO or Miranda, and never got a single email besides what was addressed to all of council requesting any type of talk. I'd love to sit down one-on-one with Miranda. If she wants to reach out to me, she can still contact me. She knows how to get a hold of me. She has my email. My phone number's out there. So we'll see where it goes from here, but I'm not letting this go because I don't believe this is acceptable. I'm more furious at Congress not doing anything about this yet. I think it's coming. I think this is getting bigger and more traction where they need to do something. We can't continue down this trajectory. This is your open border scenario, right? This is just at a different level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say there's two things that you said that I love. You said, I put this here so you can go do your own research.
Yeah.
Right. And I love that you keep calling it pulling the thread, right? It's a mess. It's a jumble. Just pull the thread.
It is.
That's one of John's favorite sayings, right? We have the drain your own swamp shirt, but right. He's like, the next shirt is do your own research. Everything that we do here, presenting things to the public, is here's the information as it's presented to us. Now go do your own research. Don't ever take our word for it. Don't ever
100%.
Just let us tell you what to do. Do your own research. So take the information given. Take all of you could go to Darin's page. You can go to he showed you where he links those sources. Do your research, right?
Yeah.
And then I will say the call to action would be pray. Find out what's 100%. On your heart, right?
That's right.
Is this a mantle you want me to take up? Yeah. Is this something that's concerning me? And then if it is, go. Go to city council members and ask questions. Go to the airport authority and ask questions. Go to IASCO and ask questions. Do your civic duty. If it's put on your heart that that's a mantle you can take up, for you it is, right? And everybody has to have that discernment. Obviously, not every one of us can tackle every one thing, right? And that's why you do your research, make your decision. Is this something I can take on? Yeah. I know it's not something I can take on, but I know that it's something I can support you in as you take it on, just as you support me in things that I take on, yeah. Right? And that's what we have to do as a community.
That's
every
true community.
person does their part, right?
Right.
So we're putting it out there. We know that there's people having these conversations. Do that. My question to you is, this has been asked of city council to make a resolution or policy basically limiting what you can speak about. Has that talk, or do you know, or can you speak to, is that coming up on an agenda? Is that going to be discussed? Do you think it'll be discussed at this next meeting? And would it be helpful for the Anderson City to rally around you and attend that to find out if it is?
Well, the public's always welcome to our city council meetings. I encourage everyone within the city of Anderson to come, be a part of the process. Listen to what your elects are voting in, approving, and, be a part of it. Speak your mind. It's a little hard at first, right? I on that journey for me is like, that started for me probably back just right during the COVID era. We're like, something's off, something's not right. So I started attending all the Anderson City Council meetings. Everyone else is at the Board of Supervisors. I'm like, I'm going to be a little on me, and I'm going to sit over here out of the spotlight and do my own thing. But yes, I encourage everyone, to get involved. It's like even more so, like, man, step it up. Like, run for a body, run for your school boards, run for city council, run. Gosh, there's water boards. There's all kinds of things. Run. Like,
yes,
you don't like where we're at. It's not going to change if you don't get involved, But some people have it in them and some don't. That's okay. I love that you brought God into this mix. That's so key. Is the biggest thing is prayer, right? All of this is under his control. It really is. And at the end of the day, I have faith that God is going to do what's best for us. So it's his will, right? So, and you can't live in fear. Like, out of all this, like, that's one message that I could probably tell anyone. It's like, don't be afraid of any of this stuff, right? None of it's in your control. Just right. Pray, put your eyes on him, and let him lead you how it goes, Yeah. So I appreciate you having me on here, Leslie, and tell John thank you. I appreciate that. It allows me to have a voice here where I know for a fact that my voice isn't going to be manipulated. My statements aren't going to be altered, that I can show you line item by line item the facts that I have, and I can speak for myself in the first person. And I believe you told me that you were going to put all of my research links on Mountaintop Media when you post this. I'll send those over to you so you can add those to the program. So, no, I appreciate you guys having me.
Thank you, my friend, for coming in. And yes, all of those links will be posted in the video description. I will paste them straight to the description. And, the only editing that's going to be done is when you're doom scrolling through and people's personal things are showing up, I'm going to cut that out. Other than that, you guys will get it as raw as it gets, straight out of the mouth of Darin.
It's social media. Nothing's personal. Thanks, Leslie.
Thanks. All right.